Okay, so this is question number 4 on the concept three forces in Newton's laws. The question asks pretty much to describe and demonstrate your understanding of Newton's second law by just kind of writing out some what ifs. So the equation is force net equals mass times acceleration. So force net would be your so using that, I wrote a couple of different things. So if in the top one, if I was to cut the mass in half, here I'll zoom in on this one. If I was to cut the mass in half and keep the net force constant, what would happen to the acceleration? So what would happen was it would double, because if one part of your equation, say it's you have a constant net force of 4, if your mass is half of that equation, you lose half of it, you have to increase half of, or you have to double it somewhere, and make sure it balances out. So the acceleration in this case would increase. Okay, so now if for the next one, if we doubled the mass, acceleration would blank to keep a constant net force. So this one's pretty much like the other one, just flipped around. So if we were to double the mass, that would mean that the acceleration would have to decrease in order to keep a constant net force, because that, and somewhere in the, equation, the mass part of the equation, it was to get a lot bigger by 2 times, to keep it balanced on the other sides, the other part, the constant net force, it would have to decrease somewhere in the equation. And so therefore, if there's only, one side, and we know the constant net force side is constant the whole time, then the acceleration would actually have to decrease by, half to keep it proportional. So this one would actually decrease. Okay, first part. Now we're looking. I'm looking at the net force. So if this, the left side of the equation, this side over here, what would happen if that net force was half? Well, that side, this side of the equation, would have to decrease by half. So whether this was 2 and this was 2, then this one was 1 and this one was 1. That would if that was equal. But it also could be you go from 10 kilograms of the mass to 0 kilograms, and then you just keep the acceleration the same. I know that's a kind of crappy example, because you can't just lose all your mass. Or you go from 20 kilograms to 10, and then you leave your acceleration the same. But I'm just trying to show you that this side would decrease proportionally. This side would have to decrease because this was cut in half to make it so it's constant. So both of these would decrease. Sorry. So both of these decrease. Okay, so kind of like that. What would happen if the force net was doubled? Well, if up here the net force decreased, this side decreased. If this side doubled, what would this side do? It would double, because you have to equal things out. So this would actually increase. So a little example of that would be, let's say it equals 4. Okay, it doubled to equal 4, and say this was 1 and this was 1, it would have to double. Each one would double, so it would be 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So yeah, if that one was 1 and that one was 1, and it used to equal 2, and it doubled to equal 4, this would have to increase and this would have to increase. Or this could stay, it's 1, and then that could randomly increase to 4. But somewhere on this side of the equation, it would have to double in order to make it equal on both sides.